right, we'll get everyone added in here as we go. All right, hopefully I'll be able to add people in as we get going here. Awesome. Let's see. All right, make sure that I'm live in our group. All right, cool. Looks like it. Just have to add people in as we go. Cool, so we'll get started. How to improve your body image. So you guys actually voted on this one. And honestly, I didn't think that this would be the most voted for thing. I honestly thought that most people would be asking like, what should I eat? So this was like a really big surprise. And I actually love it because our body image like decides like so many different things for everything. Like our body image determines a lot of the decisions that we make each day. So whether it be positive or negative, there's so much that goes into it. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna have to be changing my screen around here quite a bit. And I just want to make sure that I'm able to add people in. Yep. Okay, perfect. Cool. So with body image, this presentation, we're going to talk about some body image stats that may be shocking to you, some definitions, so positive body image definition and what a negative body image looks like as well. We're also going to talk about mom talk, so teaching our daughters to have a better self-esteem. We can actually teach this down as we go. So with that, we're also going to talk about body gratitude and then some actionable steps to do right now. Right. So body image stats. So to start off with, body image was listed in the top 4 concerns for young women. So that's pretty high up there. That's insane. Nearly 80% of young teenage girls have reported fears of becoming fat. That's a lot. That's most young teenage girls. Research has shown that around 50% of 13-year-old American girls reported being unhappy with their body. So that's half. And it grew to nearly 80% by the time girls reached the age of 17. That's insane. So this means that your daughter is likely struggling with body image. And this is a talk that needs to be talked about more, right? So in 2022, these are some stats that I compiled from body image issues in adult women. So women, there was a 70% out of the ones that they tested with this study, 70% of women were avoiding social events because of how they felt about their own body. Let me make sure this is live. Yep, perfect. Okay, cool. And 50% of women reported dissatisfaction with their own body. 20%, or it was like 30%, felt unhappy in a swimsuit. Around 60% felt self-conscious of their weight, and even higher, back up to 70%, wanted to lose weight. And the crazy thing is that 70% of the women from these studies were actually in healthy weight ranges. So they still did not feel satisfied with their body, even though they were technically in healthy weight ranges, which shows us that there is not an issue of, becoming healthier. It's an issue of becoming mentally healthier and working on the body image. So the media and body image. So this is one thing that I feel like, we see this a lot. There's this idealistic body that everyone is like striving for that, is pasted all over media. And this negatively affects body image, especially in younger girls. So one study found that using social media for as little as 30 minutes a day can negatively change the way young women view their own body. So this other study that they did was 50% of young girls who looked at magazines like fashion magazines, 50% said that they wanted to be skinny like the women in the fashion magazines, which if you've seen fashion magazines, those women are extremely thin, and it's an extreme thinness. So 50% of girls thought that that's what they wanted to be like after looking at those magazines, which is not good. So do you actually have negative body image? These are a lot of the symptoms that come up whenever we do have negative body image. So a general unhappiness with one's body as a whole or specific parts. So if you find yourself like picking yourself apart, like I don't like my thighs, I don't like my stomach, then this is one of the symptoms of having a negative body image. Basing your self-worth off of what you look like or how much you weigh. This is a really big one. Obsessing in front of the mirror, over your reflection, pointing things out, pinching your skin, repetitive negative thoughts that interferes with part of your life. So if you find that, you're missing out on things or forcing yourself to skip things because of your negative body image, refusal to look at one's body due to the anxiety. So if you're like doing the opposite and completely ignoring, like not taking pictures of yourself, not looking in the mirror, things like that, perceiving your body to be larger than it really is, feelings of being trapped in a larger body. So if any of these sound like you, then you might be dealing with a negative body image. And we have the steps to start working on that right now. But before we do that, we just want to define what exactly is body image. So body image refers to how we think about, feel, and act towards our body. So it's a multifaceted construct, which just means it consists of many different perceptual, attitudinal, and behavioral components. So there's so many things that go into body image, and we'll talk a little bit more about the negative and positive. When you have negative body image, it leads to all of these different things. So low self-esteem, maybe alcohol and drug abuse, reduced physical activity, loss of sex drive. It increases your stress, you isolate yourself more, you have perfectionist tendencies. Whenever you have a positive body image, though, you've learned to be proud of the way you look and that no one is perfect. Like you've accepted that nobody is perfect. You try your best, but you know that you're enough, and you choose to focus on the positives. So there might be things that you don't like about your body, but when you have a positive body image, you focus on what you do like about your body and what your body can do. So this leads to feeling overall more happiness in your life, and it leads to leading a more fulfilled life. So you choose to do things that are based off of experience, not based off of how you feel about the way that you look. So in between these two things, because it's hard to move from feeling negative to feeling positive, right? So one of our goals is to move to body neutrality. So instead of aiming for positivity, we're just trying to move slightly less negative than we are now. So this is the acknowledgement that our bodies are more than the way that they look, because there's so much more that our bodies do that we often forget about. So this is where we have some activities, and it's called reframing. And you can do this in so many different parts of your life, not just with your body. So if you find yourself saying something like, my body looks fat, to move into body neutrality, you might say something like, I have a body. It's super neutral. It's not positive. It's not negative. It's true. I have a body. My body has done so much for me. Something that's negative might be, you look at the scale went up. What am I doing wrong? So you're so focused on the scale that you feel like just because it went up, it means that you did something wrong. To get to more of a neutral position with this, you could say the scale fluctuates. I have been choosing healthier habits, and I will continue to work on those habits. Again, not super positive, not super negative. And then if you find yourself body pinching, body checking, body shaming others, something to work towards is being aware of those bad habits. So if you find yourself pinching yourself often, or, like pinching your arms, pinching your stomach, like become aware of that, write it down when it happens, and start becoming aware of those bad habits. And then start actually thinking of how you talk about exercise and food, especially in front of your kids. So that leads me into, you learn body image and self-worth from your mom and from your dad, actually. So you're going to pass on what you do and say to your daughter. So start paying attention. Ask your daughter what she thinks of her own body, and start finding out what what she's built as her own body image and start having these conversations. It's very hard, but these kinds of things are going to start bringing up, and it's going to help you to learn what you're saying in front of her and what she's gathered. And just a story about myself real quick is my mom never said anything about herself, but I still found myself having disordered eating patterns and having problems growing up through high school because I learned things from my friends who learned things from their parents. So even though my mom did really well with not saying things in front of me about her own body, I learned things from my friends because of what their parents were saying about their own bodies, if that makes sense. So, you don't understand the impact that the words that you're saying about yourself have on everyone around you and how it trickles in. So imagine like how that negativity trickled into everything. Imagine how being positive is going to trickle to everyone else around you. You're going to make your daughter feel better, her friends, all kinds of things. So let me see if I can add this person. Oh, it didn't let me. Sorry, just pausing so that I don't know how to get to the waiting room. All right, sorry, if I can't add you into the waiting room, you're gonna have to go to the live stream. All right, and also, not just moms, but dads too. So we can teach our daughters to actually have higher self-esteem, and it's never too late to start doing this. So if you feel like you've messed up in the past, it's never too late. And the same thing, like it affects our sons too. How you talk about yourself, your son is gonna take that and they're gonna treat their girlfriend because of how you treat yourself, how they see their dad treating them, right? So start getting dad involved. Make sure that he's saying positive things or neutral things about himself and to you as well. It's super important because if your daughter, your son sees him doing those things, they're more likely to be positive like that as well. So moving into gratitude, this is something that we did on a coaching call recently that I think had a lot of impact. So I think this is going to help you a lot as well. So start thinking, what are you proud of your body for? This might be, maybe you carried a pregnancy, maybe you birthed a child, motherhood, workouts, even just breathing, recovering from injuries. These are all things that your body does for you. Being able to get out of bed without pain, being able to walk. These are all things that we take for granted that if we practice being grateful for them, then we're going to be in a lot more positive place. What are some pleasurable actions that your body does for you? So this might be like hugs, kisses, being able to create art, having sex, enjoying sex, being able to taste delicious foods and drinks, being able to watch movies, listening to music. There's so many different things that our body does for us that we can be grateful for, right? What are some examples that you can give to your daughter? So again, start having those conversations with her. Talk about how proud she can feel of her accomplishments. Telling her like she's beautiful, that's great and all, but again, that's just going based off of appearance. So what can you say to her that's going to mean a lot more? So maybe she figured out a problem through critical thinking. Maybe it was like a problem at school. Maybe she solved some sort of problem between friendships or something. Like, congratulate her for that. That's awesome. Maybe she was kind to somebody else. Maybe she's able to do a handstand or is doing well in sports, something like that that you can congratulate her on that don't have to do with how she looks. Those are huge. Like, instead of you're so beautiful, you're so intelligent, you do so well at this thing, things like that. So some things that you can start doing right now that are going to have an immediate impact on your body image. These three things are going to be huge for you. So you can start by unfollowing and unsubscribing to things like magazines, things that you find yourself, if you read them, look at the images and you just feel like shit afterwards, then these are the things to unfollow. And that includes myself. Like, this is something that I tell even clients, like, if my account, if my posts make you feel like you're comparing yourself to me, then unfollow me. It's no big deal. And I completely understand because I've had to do that with friends of mine in certain times of my life, especially whenever I had a hard time with my own body image. And, at the end of the day, unfollowing somebody for your own mental health is not a big deal. And that other person is not going to take it the wrong way, especially if you, and they probably won't even notice, to be honest. So get rid of any media that makes you feel like shit and stop the mindless scrolling. That's going to help so many different areas of your life. And then think of things like less body goals. So I get this all the time. Like, you type something and you're like, wow, body goals. But understand that there's so much more to that person than just how they look. So start filling your working and living spaces with images that inspire you to actually love yourself. So instead of having body goals, look for career goals. Maybe somebody that's higher up than you that has the career that you want. Educational goals, or like inspiring people who are more than just their appearances. So start thinking in that way too. If you have like a vision board, instead of having body goals up there, have like this person accomplished this and that's what I want to do with my life kind of thing. Especially if you find yourself comparing to body goals, then you don't want that around right now. And next is take pictures. So I know how hard this is. Like I've talked to a lot of different like clients, potential clients about this, and you stop taking pictures of yourself, right? Because you don't like the way they look. Well, it sounds a bit strange, but even if you don't like seeing photos of yourselves, I encourage you to start taking a ton of photos and looking at yourself often. Remember, our brains start to prefer the bodies that we see the most. So the more the pictures you take, the more that you, check yourself out, buy cute outfits, buy the lingerie, take pictures in it, like do things like that. Do the boudoir shoots, things like that, and keep those pictures around where you can see them. And you're going to start loving yourself just because we're seeing that more often. And that's probably going to be the hardest one. So maybe save this for after you do these two. Right, so this is a shorter presentation, but this is the part where I'm going to ask you guys to unmute and tell me a time that you felt negative and how you could make it more neutral. So whoever wants to go first, I know I got a couple on here. And if you don't unmute, I'm just going to pick on you. We'll go with Tiffany. If you can, just unmute yourself and tell me a time that you felt negative and how, looking back now, how could you make that more of a neutral comment?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, how, looking back now, how could you make that more of a neutral comment? Oh, 1 second.
Okay, can you hear me?
How, looking back now, how could you make that? Yeah, 1 second. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I would say my first time that I can say that I had my negative image was when I was in the 7th grade, which is where mine all started. When my dad told me my butt was getting big, and that just caused kind of a spiral. I was like at 140 pounds, and I went down to 92 pounds, and started my anorexia for years and years and years. I think looking back at that, I could have definitely went about it a lot different. But again, kind of like you said, I watched a lot of MTV, and so I wanted to look like the girls on MTV. So I didn't eat. I did 4 hours of cardio a day. I drank a can of Pepsi, and then I literally didn't eat any food. I drank a can of Pepsi and I worked out. And yeah, it was all bad. And I have done the exact same thing. I have my 14-year-old son who constantly, he has a very, very, very negative self-esteem and body image. And I hear myself in him all the time, because he has heard me for years and years and years talk about how fat, how gross, like, I don't know that I've ever said anything positive about myself. And over the last year or so, when I've realized how bad he's doing it, I've really tried to not say anything and tried to like boost him up, because he's 14 years old and he's super thin. He's athletic.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you sharing that. And you're so right. Like, it's something that I feel like, you don't even realize that it's happening until, like you said, you started noticing it and now you've been kind of changing it. And like we talked about a little bit ago, is it's never too late to change those things. So it's really exciting to hear that you're starting to lift him up and noticing those habits and whatnot. Have you noticed like, just through you like lifting him up, have you noticed like any changes with that? How have you kind of been pushing more towards that like positivity with him?
So for the most part, he is getting better. He's also, now hit puberty. So he has gotten thin and tall. So he's not as obsessed, but I've caught him correcting me and saying, Mom, you're not fat. Stop saying that. And I'm just like, okay, well, I just need to go work out. I need to, get some muscle. And so I've just been trying to change it more to not that I'm fat, but I just need to get in healthier shape and, get some more muscle building. And I think that he's also seeing that, although, he's 14, he can eat anything he wants and he's still skinny.
So let me tell you that, or let me ask this, like, so how do you feel like you can use the body neutrality? So next time you find, because you talked about how like he catches you saying that you're fat, how can you change that to a more, if you catch yourself saying that, how can you make that more neutral?
I think for me, I could just say that, what I have been actually saying to myself is I'm not where I want to be, but I'm getting there. I'm doing better and I feel better. So while I'm not where I want to be, I feel much, much better and I feel stronger and I feel healthier. And that's the biggest thing. And I'm not giving up. It's a goal.
No, I love that. That's perfect. I appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
Cool. So next, I'm going to ask the next person. So this is a big thing too, is I feel like this one is the one that I feel like I'm the most passionate about, is whenever I catch somebody around me saying something about somebody else's body. So for example, like if you're with a group of friends and, they see somebody and they say something negative about that person's appearance. What is something that you could say to that friend if you hear somebody saying something negative like that? What's something that you could say to stick up for them? And you can just unmute yourself if you have an answer for this or if you've dealt with this in the past.
Hey Ariel, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I think like with this question, maybe like bringing that, like kind of grounding that person. Like for me, like I have stretch marks from having babies, but I'm not overweight. And I think a lot of times people associate stretch marks with weight gain and people who are heavier. So I've heard people comment about women with stretch marks. I'm like, wait a second, I have stretch marks too. And they're kind of like, oh, like backtrack a little bit because they're like, okay, this is not just a negative thing that we could body shame. This is something that someone on the smaller side could deal with too, and like it could happen to them if they have babies. So maybe like kind of like humbling them a little bit, or saying like this is kind of like bring to light that it's normal.
Yeah, no, I love that. That makes so much sense. Like you said, like I feel like people just say things because it's like the social norm. Like they feel like you always hear things about like stretch marks and they might think that that's true. So by you calling them out, or I'll kind of talk about that in a second more, but like talking to them and being like, hey, like that's not true, and explaining that, I'm sure that's gonna like, make them think twice about it. And then most of the time people that do body shame people don't even realize that what they're doing is wrong. And sometimes they're in such a habit of it that by calling them out, they like you said, they backtrack. They're like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. And they realize that what they were doing was wrong. So I love that answer. That's awesome. Cool. So I don't know if I was able to accept, is there anybody else on this? I don't know how. I'm still learning. Let me see. No, I think I didn't accept anyone else, but I'll keep asking you guys some questions. So Allison, I'll ask you this one. What are you grateful for your body for?
Oh, I guess that's kind of a hard one. It's like really easy to beat myself up um, for like all the changes my body has gone through. But I'm really grateful that, I got through my 4 years in the military. I did a lot with my body in the military. Like, and then after the military, having my 2 kids, like my body did those things and I carried the weight of all of that. So I'm like grateful for that and I'm proud of, having my daughters and being able to do that.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. And that's, I mean, that's huge. Like, we can summarize it as, 4 years in the military and then having your 2 babies, but there's so much like to that, like all of the physical trials and obstacles that you went through with the military, physical and mental. And then same thing, all of the physical and mental that goes into going through pregnancy, labor, having the kids, being a mom, all those kinds of things. There's so much to that. So there's so many little things in there that you could, be grateful for and summarize that way, if that makes sense. So I love that. That's awesome. Cool. So any questions that you guys have? Those were awesome, and I really appreciate you guys sharing those. Is there any questions that you have? If you're in the live stream, you can ask any questions there as well. I'll kind of stay on for a second and talk to you guys a little bit more so that I can have the chance for anyone to comment anything. I know it's lagging a little bit, but Allison or Tiffany, do you guys have any questions on anything we went over? Or I'd love to talk to you guys more about maybe some things in the past that you dealt with, just to brainstorm here. Anything that you've noticed that your own parents say or that your friends talk about, if you've had any like experiences like that.
So I have one person in my life, and it's a family member who that's her obsession is everybody's weight. So no matter what, it's, oh my God, they've gotten so fat. What in the world? I was afraid when they came over, when they sat on my couch, they would break my couch. Like, I mean, it's everything. So I'm to the point, like, I don't want to go around her sometimes because right after I had my last child, she bought me a birthday present and she bought me, I think it was like a size 1 pair of shorts. And I'm like, I'm not quite back to a size 1, which was quite obvious. But she is definitely like, that's her obsession. And she's small, she's 100 pounds. And it's just, and she's an older person. So it's just an obsession with her to the point that like, you feel all eyes on you when you're there. Like she is like, oh my God. Like, I mean, even my hair, if my hair's not blonde, she's like, I like your hair so much better blonde. I like your hair better short. I'm like, oh my God. So, but weight is her biggest thing. And you can feel those eyes and that disapproval of, oh, you've gained weight.
Yeah. Do you feel like, so obviously this person is close to you. So is this somebody that like, it sounds like you already said that you're kind of like trying to avoid that person already. Is this somebody that you see often or you feel like you have to see often?
Yes and no. I don't really see her often, but she's a very close family member. So yeah, it makes it a challenge sometimes because it it's just uncomfortable just knowing, and my mom is heavier. So just knowing that she's judging my mom that way, is frustrating as well because, my mom has a lot of health issues.
Mhm.
And so, I don't know. I can't stand when people do that to other people. You don't know what's going on. You don't know the struggles. You don't know the mental side of what's going on with people. So it's just frustrating. And that's what causes people. I mean, that's initially what started my entire anorexia downfall, when I was 12 years old. And I still struggle today. I mean, I'm not anorexic today, but I still have that body's dysmorphic, syndrome and have always had issues since then.
Yeah, no, that you're so right with it. And obviously, like you were talking, like that, it's affecting you negatively being around that and having to hear that. Is there any like, so my next question is like, how do you think she feels about herself? So this woman that is body shaming everyone around her, is she like where she wants to be with her own body? Like, does she speak on that at all? Like her own
So
herself?
she does, it's kind of funny. It's one of those like backwards things because she would love to run into my house and run straight to the scales to weigh herself and come out and be like, oh, I'm up to 107. Oh, I've got to probably take off a pound or two, or, and I'm like, it's just like, that is number one obsession all day long. Everybody. It's just, even my husband will be like, if I'm there and she's watching TV, she's like, oh my God, they've gotten fat. It's like, that's all she thinks about.
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like, she's her own obsession with that is almost like she's projecting how she feels about herself. Like, she must not feel as secure in her own body where she has to like project it for everyone else and be like, look at them, like, you know what I mean? To like take that
Right.
attention off of herself. Just from, I mean, I obviously don't know or anything like that. What has kind of helped in the, like, have you had a time in the past where you've like called her out for these things or like set her aside and been like, hey, this, the way that you say these things like negatively is impacting how I feel or anything like that?
No, not with this one. She loves to debate everything. And
Mhm.
I am a non-confrontational, non-debater. If there's anything that's a debate, I will walk away, and everything with her is a debate. So yeah, no. I just usually change the subject or, say something else or go outside, or like I said, I just kind of avoid the whole situation if possible.
Oh yeah, and sometimes that's the, that's the best you can do. You're protecting your own energy, so getting out of that situation and avoiding it. And sometimes, like, you can always call those people out, but some types of people just never will accept it, and it's kind of something that they have to eventually accept on their own. And some people never do, you know.
Yeah.
So you being able to protect your energy and avoiding that, I think, is such a good thing that you don't sit there and like take it all the time, that you're able to walk away and able to get out of that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I've definitely learned that just because somebody's family or your friends and you love them doesn't mean you have to be around them and have that toxicity, because I don't have the mental, like it mentally will drain me.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that too, because I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people can relate to that and have family members that are like that to them. So appreciate it. Awesome. Allison, can you think of a time that maybe you heard your parents talking about themselves, or maybe friends that are parents or anything like that?
I don't really remember my parents talking about their own body image that often, but I thought it was interesting because I also had a similar experience as Tiffany when I was younger, with my dad making a comment about me. We were at a water park and I had taken like my shorts off and I had a bathing suit on under, and he was like, "Whoa, she's like gained some weight," and I was like 10 years old, and he had like never made comments about my body before, like positive or negative. So that was the first time he had mentioned anything, and it was something bad.
Mhm.
And I hadn't noticed that I had gained weight, but I was just, a growing girl. So when Tiffany brought that up earlier, made me remember that instance that has always been in the back of my mind.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you that sharing that too, because those kinds of things, I feel like, we don't think about them. Like it's such a, like that one sentence and that stuck with you for over over like 15 years now. So that's like incredible to think about. And it really does make us like think about how we talk to our kids and how we talk to even nieces, nephews, and ourselves in front of them, because those kinds of things just will stick. And it sucks because I mean, you can say positive things all the time, but one negative thing is going to stick so much more. So we really got to, if anything, I hope this shows you guys that it's so important to move more towards that neutral and to start saying those more positive things, because it's going to stick with them forever. And I have a friend that she talks about how she was on the opposite side of this, and how it affected her in her life was it gave her so much, like her parents always told her all these positive things and made her believe that she could do anything she set her mind to. So she has this, what do they call it? Like a naive confidence. Like she's so confident in herself that she does everything that she puts her mind to. So imagine being able to teach your children that kind of self-esteem, to where that, you know, they really do believe that they can do anything they put their minds to, and how that's going to affect them for the rest of their lives is really interesting to see. So that's all I have for you guys. I really appreciate you guys coming on, asking questions, or talking to me and participating. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited for the next one. I'm going to do another poll and see what you guys want to see for the next training. But thank you guys again. And I hope you all have a great night. See ya.
Thank you. You too.